Good afternoon, Villa fans, and welcome to a match reaction video to Manchester City 2, Aston Villa 1, last gasp winner by City, Min Nunes in the 93rd, 94th minute, which felt like a real kick in the bollocks, really. Thought we were going to hold on for the point and definitely would have taken it, given the sort of balance of play and the way that the game was going. But yeah, just wanted to sort of jump on, talk about the game. And also, you would have seen from the headline, I want to talk about, what the situation is at the moment with Ollie Watkins and Unai Emery. Is Unai Emery losing faith in Ollie Watkins? It's a question to be asked. He's not played Ollie Watkins in what we would call the big important games, like the PSG games, obviously yesterday against Man City. Ollie was benched again after coming in against Newcastle, man of the match performance, some could say, opening the scoring, had other chances as well to add to the tally. Yes, he's not clinical enough, and we've gone through that. But is there space for Rashford and Watkins in this lineup? I think there is. I think you could easily play Rashford from the left, where I think Rashford is best, and then you can continue playing Ollie Watkins up front. But we'll come on to that in a moment. But I just want to talk about the Man City, the game, the performance. Obviously, coming into the game, beating Newcastle, what was that, 5 or 6 wins on the bounce as well. Playing really well on the front foot. Team lineup was revealed. Pau Torres was in for Mings. Digne got recalled instead of Martin. Again, after Martin played really well against Newcastle, arguably another man of the match contender for that game. And, it should always be that, if you play well, you keep the shirt. From Sunday league to professional football, unless there's injuries or fatigue taking place, which, we don't know for certain if there was, I wouldn't imagine so. After, quite a few of the players went again as well. But Martin, he gave you something different on the left-hand side, a bit of pace. Digne didn't have the greatest of games, and you could say that him and maybe McGinn at the far post were maybe both at fault for allowing Nunes. Those two players are marked at the back post for Man City, and neither of them could have scored. But where were they? Sort of picking up in the 93rd minute, and that stat went around, didn't it, on Sky Sports? And as soon as it did, after Southampton, we are the team that conceded the most goals after the 90th minute. As soon as that stat was put up, it was like, oh, shit, okay. You just felt something might happen. But, team lineup-wise, Pau Torres coming back in. I didn't have too much of a problem with Pau coming in, but Mings not even on the bench. So maybe he was one that was suffering a little bit, as we talked about there, from that fatigue, perhaps, which is, absolutely fine if that is the issue. Midfield, I was happy to see Onana and Kamara in there with Tielemans a little bit advanced. I thought Onana just adds a little bit of steel and physicality, and you need that up against Manchester City, especially because they are a big physical team and very dangerous from set pieces as well. And I think Onana was arguably our man of the match in this game. I thought he was really good, and when he came off, it really, broke down the midfield battle that we were winning, I felt, at that point. So I thought that was a mistake from Unai Emery to bring off Onana at that point. The timings of the subs weren't brilliant. Onana coming off at that point wasn't great. No John McGinn in the starting lineup again. You could have done with his legs perhaps in midfield. He went with Jacob Ramsey to play on the left-hand side, and Ramsey showed glimpses, won the penalty, of course, as well. So played a part there, but I thought maybe McGinn could have been introduced earlier. Or Morgan Rogers was not having the best of games, getting frustrated, picking up a yellow card in that second half, and just I think letting his heart kind of rule his head a little bit there. And he's someone that, if you were going to sub somebody off, he could have been the one. Him playing wide on the right as well. Obviously, he's been pushed into that position. He's played on the left as well, and we've seen the best of him in the number 10 early on in the season. And it's like you're just trying to fit him in somewhere, but he's not going to give you sort of wide play, out-and-out ball-carrying ability from the flank. He can carry it very well centrally and go past players with his power and acceleration, but he's not someone to hug the touchline and sort of get wide and, like a Marlon can do, like a Bailey can do perhaps. But, Rashford as well. If you put him on the left, he's someone that could stay sort of high and wide and give you that option there. So there was tactical tweaks that could have happened earlier in the game that might have changed the outcome of it. But I'll be honest, I was disappointed with the way we applied ourselves in this game, especially after thumping Newcastle and being on this magnificent run. We were on the back foot. I know it's at the Etihad. I know it's Manchester City, but you have to say that the team that Man City put out, it's not the greatest team. They've got players like McAtee, who comes in. O'Reilly had to come in from their youth academy as well. Marmoush was sort of leading the line, but playing from the left, really. There was no Haaland. Foden was on the bench, didn't come on. Grealish on the bench, he didn't come on. Savinho as well. I think obviously Doku came on and made a difference, but I felt like we could have taken the game more to them. We were constantly on the back foot, and every time we had the ball, it was only one out ball that we had towards Marcus Rashford. And the last 5 or 6 games, we haven't been playing that way. We've been getting bodies forward. We've been getting control of the ball and possession of the ball. But for this game, City dominated us. Bernardo Silva played well. De Bruyne was pulling the strings. But I just felt that they were vulnerable, but we didn't equip ourselves in any shape or form to really be a contender in the game. After 18 seconds, obviously Rashford has that early chance, which hits the post and falls back into the keeper's arms. Could have had a different kind of outcome if we took such an early lead. Maybe we could have sat back a little bit and soaked up some of the pressure and had that 1-goal cushion, but it wasn't to be. And then they get their goal as well, and no players are without blame. And you have to say that Emery Martinez this season has done that a couple of times, and even in recent games. If we think back to the PSG game, obviously at Villa Park, when Hakimi scored, him and Torres not communicating. Even if you look back at the Brighton game, they had a goal ruled out from Adingra, where again, Torres and Martinez are not communicating, kind of going for the same ball, and it falls to Adingra, who tapped it in, but luckily that was given as a Matoma handball in that one. And then near post against Newcastle, Fabian Schär's header going through the legs. You can say it's a little bit unlucky, but as a keeper, you don't want to be beaten there. And with this shot here, obviously, Marmoush gets the ball after it's been switched over to him. He faces up Matty Cash, who's normally very good on one-on-ones, as I mentioned in my previous video, but absolutely does him. Gets to the byline, cuts it back, takes a little deflection, falls lovely for Bernardo Silva, arriving completely unmarked as well, by the way. And he manages to hit the ball firmly, but it looks like it's going straight at Martinez. And Martinez looks like he's going to get sort of 2 hands on it and save it, but he sort of hits his hand and then falls down to his knee and sort of goes into the corner. It was a bit of a strange goal, really. And Martinez himself is a man of high standards, and he'll look back at that and really, really be pissed off with it that he couldn't keep that out. And yeah, as I said, there's been 1 or 2 occasions where he's done that. For me, he's still an outstanding world-class goalkeeper. Absolutely, I'm not saying anything like that. I'm not saying that he should be dropped or anything. But he just needs to, really sort of cut out those mistakes, because they are costly. And again, was it the first shot on target for City? I think it might have been. And it's gone back to that sort of hoodoo really as well. So yeah, they took the lead, and then soon after we've had a chance, I think, through was it Marcus Rashford getting through from Luca Digne's little lob pass, couldn't connect with it firmly, and then just after that, another nice little move, Amadou Onana to Digne. Digne plays the ball into Rashford, who's pulled out a little bit wide. Rashford uses great pace to run towards the box, tries to cut in, and then Jacob Ramsey kind of picks up the ball and is just felled by Ruben Diaz inside the box. Initially, no penalty. The game carries on. The ball is still in play, like a good minute later, and the referee decides to blow up, and he's been told to look at the VAR, which is quite weird, really, because I think normally you have to wait for the ball to go out of play, but he stopped the game sort of midway through our half as Man City had the ball. So a bit of a strange one, because I thought the ball had to be sort of dead and sort of out of play to make sort of reviews. But yeah, the VAR checked it. There's a clip by Ruben Diaz on Ramsey, which makes him go over. And for me, it's 100% a penalty. Why the ref couldn't see that in real time, I'm not sure, but it absolutely was. And then Rashford steps up with the penalty, nice and calm. Obviously, we've had a few penalty misses recently with Asensio, and obviously Watkins before that as well, I think. So nice to see Rashford nice and calm and just slots the ball home, and it's 1-1. And then, yeah, we're looking pretty good. We're in the game, we're battling. As I said, I thought Onana was very good in what he was doing. And, we had, good performances there. But Kamara was good as well. Tielemans was trying. Obviously, he put that through ball in for Rashford after 18 seconds, but didn't get to. I think when he played a bit further forward in this game, he couldn't get on the ball as much. When he dropped back, when Onana went off, he had more of the ball, Tielemans, and he looked a bit more dangerous. But yeah, anyway. But so it's 1-1. It's 1-1. Gets to half time. Second half begins, no changes at the half time. Ollie Watkins still sat on the bench. And what's going through his mind? I just wanted to talk about that as well, because, he's got to be frustrated. He has been publicly, saying that he's been fuming, and he's knocked on the manager's door and asked, what's going on? Why is he not getting a chance to play in these big games? Just equal Gabby Agbonlaho's Premier League record. We all know that he's an Arsenal fan. From when he was young, and maybe at 29 years of age, he might be looking, if there's an opportunity that Arsenal come in for him again in the summer, then he might be off, because if he's not leading the line for Aston Villa in these big games, when he has rightly helped us get to this point. You can criticize him for his finishing, and I've been very vocal about his ability to finish is not the best. And I don't think personally that moving to a side like Arsenal would be good for him. I don't think he's at that level, personally, but I don't know what's going on here. And, if he doesn't start on Saturday in the Crystal Palace game, in the FA Cup semi-final, then that is real alarm bells ringing. I want to see both of them play. I think there is a team that you can get out there where you can put Rashford on the left, you can put Watkins up front. You can get Morgan Rogers either in the 10 or from the right. You can get John McGinn in there as well for the legs. And that would work quite well. Asensio, off the bench, or, rotating in as well. But there is a lineup that you can get both Rashford and Watkins in the starting 11. And that's what I like to see. Obviously, when Rashford and Asensio first joined, we saw some lovely link-up play between those two early on against the likes of Chelsea and I think it was Cardiff and teams like that. And, they really showed some really good link-up. But now it seems to be either Rashford is starting or Asensio is starting, and they're not starting together. But they seem to have a good understanding, a good chemistry. So I want to see them two, if possible, kind of starting together on the pitch at the same time. Watkins, he's probably got an argument, really, because his goals, was it 14 this season? I think it was 19 last season, was it? Or was it 20? I don't know if he hit the 20 mark or not. But, he's been amongst the goals for us. He is always a threat. He always works hard. He plays well in the Unai system in terms of his running and what he does. Holding up the ball as well has really improved since Unai Emery's come in. His back to goal play and link-up play has really improved. It's not perfect, but it's definitely improved. But yeah, he needs, to start on Saturday. If he's not starting on Saturday, then that is a major sort of alarm bell, because you've got a lone player in Rashford kind of taking your place in the Champions League. Arguably Villa's biggest game for decades, against PSG in both legs. And then obviously against Manchester City just now. I know he played against Newcastle, but Man City just now as well. A really big game at the Etihad. Could have done with him. Really running in behind, holding up the ball sometimes as well, giving us that little bit of a breather sometimes. But, decided no, gave him the last, 15 minutes of the game. Hard to get into the pace of the game at that point. Didn't really have much. Obviously, he was offside for a chance that he had. And apart from that, not much else going on. But, I don't know what's happened between Unai and Watkins. Has there been a falling out? I hope not. Will we keep hold of Watkins in the summer? Do Arsenal come in again for him? If they did bid 60 million, as it was reported in January, would you take that? Would you be happy with 60 million for Watkins and try to bring in someone else? I'm not sure who you could bring in, but that's what we're facing now. And his career is 29 years of age, coming into the sort of latter stages of it. If Arsenal come knocking and have that Thierry Henry number 14 shirt available for him, that's going to be a massive, massive pull for him. And he would have probably already broken Gabriel Bonlahor's Premier League record by that time. I'd imagine he's going to score a goal in these last 4 games. So, he's probably done what he's achieved at Villa, what he wanted to, becoming our all-time top goal scorer in the Premier League. He can possibly get us to an FA Cup final, maybe even win that as well. And then hopefully get us to a Champions League campaign again. And, if he's achieved all of those 3 by the end of this season, obviously Villa will be happy with an FA Cup win and securing Champions League again. But then is it, okay, I've done all I can at Villa. Is it time for me to now look after myself and try to see if there is an opportunity at Arsenal? I can only see that move happening, really. So, there's talks about Rashford and Watkins having a swap deal at United. I can't see that happening at all. Why would he go to United in their current state? So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting debate for the summer. I mean, let's get this season out of the way. Let's let the dust settle on this. Let's see where we are. Hopefully, we've got a trophy in the cabinet in terms of the FA Cup. But again, this could be a rehearsal for the FA Cup final, because obviously if City beat Forest in the other semi, we could be playing again at Wembley. But if we can't be going into that game like we did yesterday, because we were on the back foot, on the defensive, looking for counterattacks. I think Villa generally are better when we actually attack, rather than sort of sitting in and being that team that tries to hold out. We've never been great at that. I think we're better when we attack. And even at 1-1, I mean, obviously, yeah, you want to shut up shop a little bit at that point, so especially in the last sort of 5 or 6 minutes, whatever it might be. But I just felt throughout the whole game, we didn't offer too much in an attacking sense, where that's been our strength recently. So just a real shame. And then that 93rd minute goal, I mean, the ball out wide to Doku and Disasi just diving in. And he's done that now against PSG, where he was turned inside out by Kvaratskhelia. And he's not a right back, is he? We brought him in as sort of centre-back cover. We've got Andres Garcia, who was on the bench as well. Just please play a right back at right back. If you're going to take off Matty Cash, who I thought was having a good game. He wasn't on a yellow card, as far as I know. And I felt he was containing them well. And as I said, if you're coming into the game off the bench, it's very difficult to get up to the speed of the game, especially the way that Man City knocked the ball around. And you've got someone like Doku, who's probably one of the quickest players in the Premier League. He's fresh as well because he just came on a few moments before that. And one mistake and you're punished. I mean, Doku got around him, got past him, and then put a low ball into the box. And, you could say maybe Emery Martinez could have gobbled it up. It was right across the 6-yard box. Or, I think Pau Torres was close to it, but didn't kind of pulled out of it a little bit. And then at the back post, as I said, no defender. Luca Digne, I'm not sure where he was. John McGinn was obviously playing from the left as well, where he was and tracking his runners. But if you look at the still image, Nunes and one other are completely free, literally, in our penalty box at the back post. So either of them, had opportunities to get onto that one. But yeah, Nunes makes it 2-1. And, you can tell by Emery's face that he was absolutely pissed off. And I think he kind of knew that, Champions League now is going to be a big uphill struggle. I mean, looking at it now, we've got 4 games remaining. Fulham, Bournemouth, Spurs and Man United, I think it is away, as our run-in. We have to get 12 out of 12. Do you know what I mean? And going to Bournemouth is going to be difficult. They're still a good team. Fulham at home on next week, I think, in the next Saturday. I think it's the lunchtime game. Got to pick up points there at Villa Park. That has to be a non-negotiable 3 points. We just have to hope that other teams now are kind of dropping points, taking points off each other a little bit. To see if we can get. I want 5th place. I want Champions League football so badly. I want Champions League football over an FA Cup win. I'll say it because I just think the revenue that it brings in, the prestige, the competition itself, the players you can attract with a Champions League, campaign coming up would be so much more than the FA Cup. I want to win an FA Cup. I do, but if you're giving me a straight choice out of the 2, then I want Champions League. We've experienced it this year and had some fabulous nights and great performances, and it's taken Villa to a new level in terms of global reputation as well. I don't want to be in that Europa League and, playing the likes of Olympiacos and all them sort of, mid-tier European teams. I want to see Villa at the top table. I want to see the PSGs. I want to see the Bayern Munichs again. I don't want to see Hoffenheim and Olympiacos and whoever else they might be, Sampdoria or something. You know what I mean? Just like, don't really want that. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts. I mean, what do you think about this whole Ollie Watkins and Emery situation? He's got to start on Saturday. But do you want him? Would you welcome him to leave in the summer if he has achieved everything that he has to? Like I said, breaks the record, the goal scoring record from Gabby, wins an FA Cup with us, and gets us Champions League. He's probably then deciding in his mind, I've achieved all I can at Aston Villa. I now want to have a crack at maybe winning the Premier League or winning the Champions League. And maybe he thinks he has more chance of doing that at his boyhood club, Arsenal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and how his last 4 games go and where we are come sort of end of May when everything is done and dusted and, what's been achieved and what hasn't. Even Emery Martinez has said like he wants to see Aston Villa win a trophy, playing in the Champions League as well. And again, it's almost like when you do achieve those, if we do achieve those, then players might think, oh, okay, time for a new challenge. This is not me wishing Emery away or even wishing Ollie Watkins away. I want them both to stay. But we have to look at the situation how it is and how it's unfolding at the moment, especially with Watkins not getting the game time that he wants, publicly, voicing his frustrations with it, knocking on the manager's door. But let's see. Hopefully, an angry Ollie Watkins turns up on Saturday, like he did against Newcastle, bangs in an early goal, gets another 1 or 2 more, and we're celebrating, the cup final at Wembley. But yeah, we've got to make sure we win that one now, just to, get the positive vibes back again and go into those last 4 games off the back of, we've booked a Wembley place in the cup final. I think that would be a really, really good momentum feel, give us a really good feel going into those last 4 games. Because yeah, Fulham, Bournemouth, obviously Tottenham and Man United are in sort of European competition as well. They could be facing each other in that Europa Cup final, Europa League Cup final. So how serious and how much attention are they going to give to last games of the season when there's nothing really for them to play for? Are they going to rest players? Are they just going to, not really put as much effort in and all that sort of stuff, similar to what we did against Crystal Palace last year at the end of the season after we'd secured kind of Champions League. But anyway, guys, do subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on everything Aston Villa, Ollie Watkins situation, Champions League hopes, FA Cup coming up as well. Can we do it? Can we get Champions League? Can we win the FA Cup? And what are your thoughts on the Man City game and what went wrong there? Because there's plenty to unpick, really. And, I could be sat here for another 3 hours going through that. But, let's not do that. Anyway, guys, girls, enjoy the rest of your day. Until the next video, which will be an FA Cup preview, probably tomorrow or Friday. But until then, enjoy the rest of your working week. Bye for now.